Good morning everybody. Hello and happy Friday. I hope you've all had a wonderful week of learning at home and learning at school. And what a busy week it has been. As you all know, it's been STEM week and I have seen the most amazing examples of work and fun and exploring and science and technology and engineering and maths that you've all been getting up to at home. It's also been a very hot week and I know that many of you have been able to take your learning and especially your STEM experiments outside into the garden, which is great. So let's begin our assembly and begin our day by joining our hands and offering it to God. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father in heaven, I give you today all that I think and do and say. Amen. Well, this is our last assembly before a well-deserved half-term break. And let's hope that wonderful weather that we've had this week carries on so that you can get outside and enjoy some fun. Now, as it's STEM week and in Monday's assembly, I shared with you one of my favourite little experiments. Do you remember? The boat with the washing up liquid on the water. Did you figure out why it sped through the water with the blob of washing up liquid on it, but then it wouldn't happen again? I wonder who went away, researched, found out a bit more, or maybe even tried it themselves. It was all to do with the surface tension of the water. When that washing up liquid breaks the tension on the top, the boat pushes its way through really quickly. But if you try to do it again, the tension that's holding tight has already broken, so there's no speeding through on the second attempt. If you haven't had a go at that experiment, it's a really fun one to do. So perhaps you could outside in the sunshine in the days to come. But for today's assembly, I want to start with a little bit of an experiment that also links with a very special event that's going to be taking place in a week or two's time. I'm going to show you the things that I'm going to use for my experiment this morning. Firstly, I've got a candle and it's stuck onto my plate. I've also got quite a small glass jar. Now, I'm going to light my candle, and do remember that if you're using candles or any kind of fire or lighting up with any of your experiments, you need to make sure that you have a grown-up with you and that you've asked permission. I'm going to light my candle and then I'm going to do something with this glass jar. Let's watch. Taking my matches. And I'm lighting my candle. So my candle is lit and now I'm going to use my glass jar to put it on top of the candle. Not on top like this, but turning it over. Before I do, I wonder, can you think, do you know what's going to happen? What will happen when that glass jar goes on top of the candle? Let's see. I've placed it on top and as if by magic, the candle has gone out. There's no flame still burning. I wonder, do you know why the flame wouldn't burn any longer? Have a think about all the science that you've learnt in school and at home, I'm sure as well. That That's right. The candle, when I put the jar on top of it, didn't have enough oxygen to keep burning. But I wonder, if I had jars that were different sizes, would the same thing happen? Why don't we have a go and find out? Watch my next experiment. So, a couple of moments ago, I showed you what happened when I put a jar over a candle that was lit. But I wonder, what if we tried different candles with different size jars? Now, my candles are roughly the same size, not accurate, but roughly the same size. But as you can see, my jars are all different sizes. We've already seen that the first jar meant that the candle went out because it didn't have enough oxygen to keep burning. What do you think will happen to these different candles when we put these different sized jars over the top? Why do you think what you're thinking? Have you any idea which one might stay burning the longest and which one would go out the quickest? Let's find out. Well, was your guess right about the different size jars? Did you think it would make any difference to how long the flame of the candle burnt for? I'm going to show you a picture now. I said at the beginning that my candle and my experiment would link with another very important event that's going to happen on the 31st of May this year. Have a look at my picture. What do you see? It's not an ordinary type of picture. Can you make out the shape of anything? And how is that shape formed? It looks to me a little like a bird with its wings outstretched. And the flame that we saw on the candle, I can see similar colours there. Almost like flames and beams of light. Have you put my clues together yet? A candle that will not burn with enough oxygen, with enough power to keep it burning. A bird, perhaps a dove? That's right. The very special event that takes place on the 31st of May, so that's not for a couple of weeks yet, is Pentecost. The festival that we celebrate, the festival of Pentecost, where the Holy Spirit came and filled the disciples with the power to share Jesus' good news. Let's listen to the story of Pentecost now. After Jesus rose from the dead, he showed himself to his disciples several times. After 40 days, Jesus left them again to return to heaven. And that was what we celebrated on Thursday this week, Ascension Day. Before he departed, he asked his disciples to go and tell other people about him. He promised that even though he wouldn't be with them anymore, as a person, he would send a very special helper, a special guide to be with them forever. And that guide was the Holy Spirit. The disciples were puzzled. They didn't understand what Jesus meant. They gathered in a room to wait for Jesus to keep his promise. For a while, nothing seemed to happen. even though about 120 of Jesus' followers were all praying. They probably thought things like, how is the Holy Spirit going to come? When is something going to happen? And why do we have to keep waiting? They would have felt frightened, probably quite anxious and worried, and definitely very curious. While they were waiting, they chose another disciple, Matthias, to replace Judas Iscariot. Judas was the one who had betrayed Jesus to the authorities. Time went on, and it seemed as if nothing was going to happen. Questions kept going round and round in the disciples' heads. Had Jesus let them down? Was it a matter of out of sight, out of mind? Everyone and everything was quiet, but still they kept on sitting there. In the quietness, the followers suddenly heard a new sound, like a strong wind blowing towards them. They became aware that God's presence was with them, and at the same time, they saw something incredible. Flames or tongues of fire appeared and rested above each person's head, but without burning them. Instead, they each felt a new power sweeping through them, making them happy and excited. In fact, they were all so excited they started speaking at once and in different languages. The day of Pentecost had come, and the disciples' lives had changed forever. Jesus had kept his promise and had sent the Holy Spirit to be their friend. The fire was a sign of the Holy Spirit's presence, and the different languages they were speaking showed that they could go and tell people in all parts of the world about Jesus too. So the candle couldn't burn without oxygen, and we cannot live and find our power and our strength without the Holy Spirit, our guide. Let's join our hands now and bow our heads. Dear God, thank you for sending your Holy Spirit at Pentecost. Thank you that he will be with us forever and will always be ready to help us live good, honest and helpful lives. Thank you that the Holy Spirit allows us to know your presence with us every day. Now, as well as that prayer, children, at Pentecost, many people pray different prayers to the Holy Spirit. And this is one that I'd like you to pray, especially as we come towards the time of Pentecost. Holy Spirit, I want to do what is right. Help me. Holy Spirit, I want to be like Jesus. Guide me. Holy Spirit, I want to pray like Jesus. Teach me. Amen. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And perhaps that's a prayer that you might write out, have on your wall maybe, so you can practice it and say it with your prayers in the evening and maybe even in the morning as we come towards the festival of Pentecost. Now, my experiment on Monday and my investigation with the candles today all link, of course, with our wonderful STEM week. And as I said at the beginning of Assembly, I have been amazed. This has been the biggest week ever of having so many impressive entries for our Building Better Learning Championship. And just as always, I want to read out a whole range of the wonderful entries we've had and the things that you've been getting up to. We have had so many different vehicles made in our challenge to make a vehicle that can go the furthest distance. We've had elastic band cars, wind power vehicles, including balloon cars, trains made of Lego. We even had a Trojan horse with wings. And if you're not sure what the Trojan horse is, perhaps ask somebody at home or have a look and see if you can find out. We had baking power powdered rockets. We had delivery vehicles, zip wires, battery powered robot bugs, vehicles made of all different kinds of materials. And they all really impressed me. You've sent me films, you've sent me pictures, but I think what's impressed me most is the different skills that you've used in your designing, making, testing, redesigning, retesting, and your finished products. You've measured using non-standard measures like hand spans and using standard measures, some wonderful use of tape measures in the movies and the films that I've seen. You've adapted and thought, you've changed things, you've worked together, often with a brother or sister or a grown-up at home. You've tried different shapes and sizes for parts of your vehicles, and you've asked others sometimes for ideas to help, including watching some videos to help you with inspiration. That means good ideas. You've explained to others. Some of you have even written out your explanations of how you created and tested your vehicle. But of course, as always, we have to choose some winners, and I would love to give you all a certificate this week. Here is our Building Better Learning presenter, Mrs. Mackay, with the big announcement.
Good morning, everybody. What absolutely wonderful weather you've had for STEM Week this week. And as Miss Kenner says, your ingenuity has been an absolute delight to see. So without further ado, let's find out which STEM specialists are our Building Better Learning champions this week. Bronze. This is someone who had some real difficulties with their design. They showed a huge amount of perseverance. They used Google Classroom to ask advice. There's a shout out here to Joshua Savage and Daniel Hamid for their brilliant suggestions. So Riley, I have no idea what your hair colour is right now, but your determination to keep going makes you a well-deserved bronze champion. Silver. Yet again, we have sibling champions. This is a pair of brothers who made cars and were particularly impressive in changing the variables when testing their vehicles, which moved brilliantly across quite the shiniest, sparkliest floor I have ever seen. Well done, Harrison and Isaac Radford. Gold. Our gold champion is a rocket builder who sent a Lego man up into the heavens. She developed and trialled her rocket, deciding that as the rocket flew higher and higher, her Lego man needed what looked like an oxygen supply. We were amazed by how high you made your chemical reaction powered rocket go. Erin Dooley, you are a very worthy STEM gold champion. So have a lovely half term, everybody, with your families, and hopefully see you soon. Bye-bye.
Congratulations to those winners. I cannot believe how much learning has happened as a result of your STEM experiments this week. I'm so very proud, and we're keeping all of your pictures and films together so that we can keep on enjoying them. Now, you might have noticed that we haven't sung a hymn together yet this morning, and there's a very special reason for that. Miss Keller was having a really good think with Mrs. Royce and Mrs. Farrell about a hymn that fitted in well with our STEM and Science Week. And there aren't many hymns about vehicles or about science and experiments. And then we had a really good idea. A hymn that had lots about the natural world, because of course a big part of our scientific learning is about the world around us. Maybe a hymn with some animals. And of course, hymns always remind us about how close we go to Jesus with his love and his smile. So, could we find a hymn with animals, love, smile? I wonder if you've guessed which one we found. If I were. Can you finish that sentence? Can you finish that hymn? Well, here's quite a few people who did. Take a look.
If I were a butterfly, I thank you, Lord, for giving me wings. And if I were a robin in a tree, I thank you, Lord, that I can sing. And if I were a fish in the sea, I'd wiggle my tail and giggle with glee. But I just thank you, Father, for making me me. 'Cause you gave me a heart and you gave me a smile. You gave me Jesus and you made me a child. And I just thank you, Father, for making me me. If I were an elephant, I thank you, Lord, for raising my trunk. And if I were a kangaroo, I'd just hop right up to you. And if I were an octopus, I thank you, Lord, for my kindness. And I just thank you, Father, for making me me. 'Cause you gave me a heart and you gave me a smile. You gave me Jesus and you made me a child. And I just thank you, Father, for making me me. If I were a wiggly worm, I thank you, Lord, that I could swim. And if I were a crocodile, I thank you, Lord, for my big smile. And if I were a fuzzy wuzzy bear, I thank you, Lord, for my fuzzy wuzzy hair. And I just thank you, Father, for making me me. 'Cause you gave me a heart and you gave me a smile. You gave me Jesus and you gave me a child. And I just thank you, Father, for making me me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed and perhaps sung along with that very special hymn and the message from all of your wonderful teachers, all of the wonderful staff at St John Fisher. Have a wonderful half-term holiday, relax, no home learning, take a break, and you even get an extra day because there's an inset day on Monday the 1st of June. You've worked really hard this half term. We're really, really impressed with you. And that also goes for all the grown-ups out there too. Thank you for everything that you continue to do to make sure that you stay home, stay safe, look after each other and keep learning too. Have a wonderful holiday. I will see you after half term.